Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel, and welcome to everybody joining us from Facebook as well. This is the Husker Big Red podcast, and we're back for another of our Saturday morning chats. So you can grab your coffee and hang out with Husker Big Red for the morning. We're going to go over some Nebraska football depth charts here for the spring. Talk about some other of the rumblings, even some transfer portal stuff. And if you guys want to hop on and join us for this live chat, you can ask questions or elicit your own comments. So, Danny, how are you doing on this Saturday morning?
I'm kind of upset, and I'll tell you why. I was playing NCAA last night, and I lost in the conference championship game. I was the 17th ranked overall team, and I even forget who I lost to. I was just so mad. And so I lost an opportunity at Glory, but I'm in the Fenway Bowl, so there's a nice consolation prize. But other than that, real life, I'm doing well.
Yeah, NCAA college football can be frustrating at times. So, I recently I think I'm in the 2026 or 2027 season now. I was in 2026, and I was in the semifinals, and I was down 6-3. I was in a 6-3 game, and I got to the 2 yard line, and my dude fumbled it on first down, so I lost.
The script of this game, whenever you're winning or whenever there's a key moment, it always favors the computer. So I have to remember that as I play these games.
Yeah, it does. When you get up like 14 points, that's when you know you're like
Yeah,
danger time. That's when
you,
your defensive prowess really gets tested because the
you,
computer's like determined to score.
you got to prepare for the onslaught and just hope you can weather this storm.
So yeah, I still have Dylan Raiola. He's a senior on my team, so that I didn't play that great with him. I have just throws way too many interceptions, but
Oh, I throw tons of interceptions all the time, and I utilize my running backs a lot, and then just hope for the best because I can only honestly run about 3 or 4 plays offensively because I'm on Heisman and the pass rush, the opposing pass rush is absolutely like crazy. My pass rush, however, their offensive linemen are like Outland Trophy award winners all of a sudden because I can't get any rush whatsoever. So
yeah, that is frustrating. I do adjust my offensive line protections quite a bit, and I've noticed that will help a lot, especially like on for whatever reason I've noticed on play action plays.
yeah,
The computer, unless you shift your protection, they just will leave guys just totally unblocked. So it's
yeah,
like,
yep.
oh, it's like if your tight end's going out for like if your tight end's going out for a pass route, you need to like shift your O line that direction, or they just won't block the guy that the defensive, they'll just be like, oh, I thought the tight end was blocking him, even though I knew he was going out for a route. It's so crazy. It's so annoying, but
And
yeah,
that's
I
an
totally
EA
know what you
coding problem too, because I noticed the same thing in Madden. Like EA just knows that we'll buy this game, and they don't pay attention to the details.
Yeah, I hope it's a little bit better this time. Like I did some conference realignments in mine, and which they allow you to do. But then the teams in the conferences don't play till they'll have like 3 conference games. So I set up like a new Pac-12 with like 12 teams, and they'll only play like 3 conference games. So I'm just like, what the hell? That doesn't make any sense. And so hopefully they do better with the dynasty mode this next time.
I was thinking about you last night because I landed 3 blue chip commitments, and I know how much you love the blue chip ratio. So I was thinking of you and my blue chip ratio. I only have 8 commitments. I don't really recruit a ton, but I need to start working on it because recruiting is a little bit difficult. But
Yeah, recruiting, you do have to hit what I've noticed is that you have to get like the hard sell and the sway, that stuff you have to get the right pitch or
I
whatever.
send the
So
house all the time and hope it works. I just
the
send
other
the
thing that
house.
I started doing is I really pay attention to, this is kind of funny from a Nebraska perspective, but I look at and we'll talk spring here in a sec, but
Yeah,
when I set up my board, I go and I search all the players that like I'm ranked number one with, that I'm in the number
mhm,
one
yeah,
position, and I offer almost all of them. So and that helps me. But anyway, we can get to some
yeah.
Nebraska spring talk here. I know this is why you guys showed up, is to hear our college football dynasty talk, but
Mhm.
I do have some good tips though if you
We should honestly just have
want
a
some.
whole like show based off of our dynasty issues and musings.
Yeah, so I won the championship on All American. I've been trying with Heisman. I haven't quite made it there yet, but
Heisman is tough. Heisman is tough,
yeah,
tough.
yeah, it is pretty tough, but
But it's a nice
yeah,
challenge.
sticking to the running game is good. I throw a lot of short passes. I throw to the tight end a bunch,
I'm about to turn
and
my wear and tear off because that's just like I get it's realistic, but I like my running backs injured the second play of the game. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
really? That's funny.
know.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, well, we wanted to make this chat just about spring football. We usually do these chats leading up to games, and we're trying to get back into it. So that's why we're kind of having these episodes early in the morning. So it's usually, thinking about having a game on Saturday. I wish we were having a spring game in 2 weeks, but we're not. We're having the Nebraska Fan Day. We'll have the volleyball. Will have a spring match here against Kansas, soon. So that'll be kind of fun to see. Danny Busboom Kelly make her debut, and I feel
Before the
like the
new John
Huskers,
Cook Arena.
yeah, the John Cook Arena, yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty cool. I feel like the Huskers are going to be, in contention for a national championship again on the volleyball court, and hopefully we'll be a little closer on the football field. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about this roster. Through the first few weeks of spring ball, I thought one of the a couple of key headlines, I guess, that came out this week, and my idea was kind of to go position by position, but with Justin Evans, I think at
yep,
center seems
yep.
to really solidify things this week. And then another, I thought, depth chart question we've been talking about is running back, and it seems
Yep.
like Quentin Ives, according to Dana Holgerson, has really locked down that position. So, what do you think about those things, or are there other kind of depth chart things that have caught your eye?
Well, one of the things that Holgerson said was that Isaiah Mosey and Cortez Mills will see some action this fall, and that excites me just because I want to see what they can do. I mean, you heard Dylan Raiola talk about Ferraris and Lamborghinis in the wide receiver room, and I think we might be able to see them come out of the garage, so to speak. And I'm excited for those guys, and like you mentioned, Justin Evans Jenkins. Comfortably starting at the center position right now. I love him. I think he's a very technically sound lineman, and it won't be easy to replace somebody like Ben Scott. I thought Ben Scott was really solid, but I love Justin Evans Jenkins, and the fact that he's emerging so early and that he has Holgerson's endorsement certainly, means something.
Yeah, and I think the entire offensive line, as Matt Rule in his last press conference said, it's been one of the highlights of the spring, which I thought has been a big positive. Because that group needs to be good. Elijah Pritchett. We've only got to see these snippets of practice, but he certainly looks like a dude. I mean, he certainly looks like a left tackle type that Nebraska really hasn't had the past few years. I mean,
Mm-mm.
Teddy Prochazka has looked the part when he's been healthy, but that's been very rare. I guess one thing that is interesting with this house settlement and some of these talks about maybe roster limits being grandfathered in. I'm not sure Nebraska is going to have to be at 105 when the season starts, so that's kind of still up in the air. I still, there's probably players who are going to leave just because there's uncertainty, but I don't know. It's really sounding like to me that that hard roster limit we thought was going to happen might not happen. Based on what this judge was saying at this at the recent hearing, the house settlement and all these other college factors, and so maybe like Turner Corcoran and Teddy Prochazka could still be on the roster and not really count. Against a supposed 105-man limit for Nebraska.
Potentially. I mean, my feelings on those two, but if they can be on the roster and, they don't have to get cut and they can offer more depth, then that's always a positive. But I think at this point, there are better linemen on the roster that deserve a shot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, just when I look at tackle, if you look at those top two
Yeah,
tackles, if there's an injury, it just wouldn't hurt to have Teddy out there if he's
I agree.
healthy. And I don't know if he's going to be or will ever be, but yeah, if there's not a roster limit to worry about, I wouldn't have a problem with Nebraska keeping him if they, you still have
Yeah.
to probably pay him some money, but yeah, I think him and Corcoran wouldn't be bad. So that's something to watch. I think we've seen with basketball too, I feel like Nebraska is definitely recruiting towards a 15-man roster limit as opposed to, the 13-man scholarship limit that they kind of had before.
Well, I have
Um,
14 spots filled, so
yeah, so they need, one other spot. Um, but like some of those guys too were former walk-ons, so like with Justin Bolus and Cale Jacobson, and I'm not sure, like, are they on scholarship now? That's the assumption I'm making, but I'm
Kale
wondering if
definitely
there's.
deserves one if he's not.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll be back on scholarship, and I'm sure the other guys are too at this point. I mean, I think it was just, if Nebraska could have given them scholarships, I'm sure they would have. They just weren't allowed to before. Now this season, they're supposed to be able to do up to 15 scholarships, or you can have partial scholarships. I don't, whatever. I would assume that Nebraska is going to full scholarship all roster spots. That's just my assumption because, I mean, they're not. it's not like Nebraska's shy from spending money. You know, they just don't have they don't have necessarily the NIL backing. You know, in basketball, that some of these other 10 million teams have, $10 million teams have, like probably Indiana. I mean, Michigan might be in that range. I don't know. They're spending a lot on players.
Creighton, I think, is probably in that range.
Creighton, Alabama, a lot of the SEC schools, although it's going to be interesting because some of them are like, we're going to have to focus more of our money on football. So I don't know if SEC teams are going to be able to keep spending as much as they have been. It's going to be really interesting to see how all that stuff works out with NIL, but definitely getting more towards, I don't want to say professional, but I mean, essentially that's what it's become. It still doesn't bother me. I know it bothers a lot of people,
Yeah,
and I understand it, but it's a business. The NCAA is college sports have been a business for decades, and it's fair for these guys to get their to get their cuts. So you have to play the game, and that's why with Nebraska, it is people that don't like Fred Hoiberg or don't think he's the best option out there. Like, I'm telling you, you're wrong. He's the best option for Nebraska because I think that he can build the best roster with like $4 million or whatever that Nebraska can. He can build the best roster that money can buy. If you have another coach that you can give $10 million to, then sure, I'm all for it. But Fred Hoiberg is an excellent scout of talent. He's an excellent developer of talent, and we've seen him take these mid-major guys and help them become professional level players. And that's what Nebraska has to do. I mean, even I like some of their portal additions, but let's be honest here. Nebraska's been, that they're value shopping, right? They're not landing guys that are like in the top 20 in the portal rankings, and that's probably just never going to happen with the way their program's set up.
I agree. I mean, and you look at some of the price points for some of the bigger guys in Nebraska. I don't think we'll ever pay that for one player, but I do like the portal additions that Nebraska basketball has added. I think, and I said this last year, that they can be an NCAA tournament team with this roster. How they didn't end up in the NCAA tournament last year is kind of, it still confuses me. But, I think they did a good job this week. I love Kendall Blue. I love Kendall Blue. I think he's a Bryce Williams replacement. Very similar game. I know we talked about it a little bit on Thursday, I think it was. And then, I love Eurysephagus. I had to think about his name for a second. And so
I think we can just call him Oogie. I think that's
Oogie.
like his
All right.
nickname is Oogie. So yeah, let's go with that.
Oogie and Blue and some of these other returning guys like Jamarcus Lawrence. I love the fact that he's back. So I really like the way this team shakes out. And Fred wanted more shooting, and he got it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But not that has anything to do with football. But I just like the basketball team and the way it's structured.
Yeah, we were off on a little bit of a tangent here going between football and basketball, but that's why we got the live chat. We kind of set a topic and then we just kind of see where it goes. So if anybody's hanging out, I know we have a few watchers. Excuse me, my voice is getting a little cracky, but feel free to hop in the chat. Let us know what you want to talk about, or you can just sit back and hang out with the Husker Big Red crew. But I agree that Nebraska's basketball does have, I think, the pieces to be an NCAA tournament team. I think they'll probably still try to add one more piece if they can. Looking back at last season, though, I do think maybe Fred made a little bit of an overcorrection based, too much off the Texas A&M game. I saw somebody, I think it was Husker Hoops Central, I want to say is their Twitter follow. They do a lot
That's a
of good.
brag. No.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that they mentioned was, that Fred had course corrected his strategy from trying to build a team capable of beating Texas A&M. That's essentially what they thought. I didn't really think about that before, and I was like, you're kind of right a little bit, and I think that they did try to adjust their team a little bit. They went kind of with more of a defensive point guard. They tried to get Braxton May, a big rim protector, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't quite add as much shooting as. So I think this team is going to reflect more of the Fred Hoiberg offense that we've seen. And you mentioned it a few times where there just wasn't. You expect a lot of 3-point shooting with the Fred Hoiberg team, and not that Nebraska was a poor shooting team, but they didn't have. It didn't seem like they had like the Creighton type of offense where there was just shooters all over the place, and it's going to look much more like that, I think, this season.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, and I said this before. When I watched the Creighton games, the Creighton offense is the offense that Fred Hoiberg wants to run. I mean, that's Fred Hoiberg's dream offense, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the Texas A&M game and that Husker Hoop Central mentioned the Texas A&M game because I also saw the same issue with Illinois and Terrence Shannon 2 years ago, for example, where he was able to just drive by, and then of course they always have good big men, right? It seems like Illinois can, you know, grow talented big men year after year. So I think those two teams, Texas A&M and Illinois, kind of forced Hoiberg to kind of pigeonhole himself into one particular defensive style that he forgot about offense. And the problem with that is they forgot about defense a lot of times last year too, so it didn't really help either end of the floor.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens this coming season. But let's try to shift, I guess, to some football talk, which we
Yeah.
have as our label here. Anyway, some spring. Yeah, it has been fun this spring. I mean, I wish we had the spring game, like I said, but at least we get to see these guys practice a little bit. I know the right wide receivers have really been turning
Mm,
heads. So I mean, just really quickly looking at like the quarterback depth chart, we all know who's going to start there. I think we all know who the backup's going to be. Jalen, Jalen Graham dad, Graham's dad.
yeah.
So I think that there's not a whole lot to talk about there. I mean, TJ Lateef is coming up, Marcus Davalia, those guys are kind of competing, I would say, for to be the quarterback of the future type. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any quarterback depth chart surprises this season.
No, and I really like TJ Lateef, and I want to see a little bit more out of Marcos Davalia. Not that I don't think he's good. I just want to see a little bit more because we really haven't seen a ton. Because like you said, no real clips have gotten out. But I like TJ Lateef, and I like the way his quarterback room stands for the future, especially when you consider how much work they're already doing recruiting 2027 quarterbacks. So um, yeah, I really like the quarterback room. I don't want to go on a tangent again about the 2027 quarterbacks and lose
Um,
focus here.
Yeah, and then running back, the one we talked about, Quinn Ives, and it seems like he's really established himself as the number
Mm-hmm.
two. And speaking of NCAA, I love Quinn Ives on NCAA football. I
Is he
throw the
good?
football to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I throw it to him all the time. Yeah, and I run it to him quite a bit. And actually, I found this play, this formation. I had this offensive lineman. I moved him to tight end. He's like my
Mhm.
backup tight end. And for some reason, I don't know why, but when I moved my power eye formation, I got like the fullback in there, and I just keep rolling with him, and I keep getting
Hmm.
like 7 yards of carry. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, Nebraska should try that. Uh, but in
That
terms
would
of this
make
current
about
running,
70% of our fan base happy.
yeah, it would. It would. Yeah, it really would. Um, but the one other note, is Jamarian Parker has been kind of hurt, and there was
Yeah.
some talk that he might be able to push for some playing time. He's been injured, and I mean, Dana Holgerson kind of nipped that in the bud, like basically saying like this guy still has some work to do before he's going to play. So maybe we
Yeah.
should
Bartel said the same
maybe
thing.
yeah, maybe we should slow the Jamarian Parker role a little bit. Although he's still, I think once he gets into the fall, he'll still have a chance to contribute. But Connor Booth though definitely earned some praise. I can't remember which coach said that. Maybe it was Holgerson, but he said like this dude belongs here. So I thought that was another notable thing for the running back position.
Absolutely. I mean, he was a Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. So I think people are sleeping on Connor Booth a little bit. And when it comes to Booth, wake up.
Yeah, and thinking about like a power runner, he definitely would be in that mix. So I'm interested to see how his career goes, and if things if he doesn't get a lot of chances at running back, why not make him a fullback type? So I think he's got multiple options to be, like Andy Jankovic. Is that the fullback that was good a few like back
Janovich?
about 10 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Janovich.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering maybe he could be that type of guy where he did run sometimes. He was a runner, a blocker, maybe like a true H back. So, but yeah, I definitely think Connor Booth is going to have an impact here. We talked a little bit about receiver already, and I don't know much else to say. I mean, they're loaded at that position. Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, like you said, Mills and Mosey. The fun part about that group to me is you look at four of those five guys, and they've got 3 years of eligibility left. The only one who's leaving after this season, assuming obviously the transfer portal is real, so guys could leave to another team. But the only guy who doesn't have eligibility left after the season is Dane Key, and I think that's a pretty exciting thing when you have the prospect of Dylan Raiola, throwing to Cortez Mills and Mosey for 2 maybe 3 years. But
And
we'll
just
see.
so we continue to put respect on his name and don't forget about him, Demetrius Bell.
Demetrius Bell. And Dranian Bonner too. I keep
Yeah.
forgetting about him, and I
Well, he
shouldn't
played more of a
because
fullback role last year, didn't he?
well, he last year they kind of moved him around, and then they moved him to receiver too, and he did a lot of like blocking type stuff. So I mean, I think he's still going to have a role like in those screen plays, and he is a better athlete than people give him credit for. So, but yeah, Demetrius Bell again, I do keep forgetting about him. I was super excited about him before he got hurt in
Yeah, me
the
too.
spring game last year. So yeah, just a ton of weapons, and then you've got Quinn Clark too, who I've heard good things about. He's looked good this spring, and I mean that's as good an athlete probably as there is on the team. And we haven't Carter Nelson is another guy that this fall hopefully can be in the mix at tight end. I think we've heard a lot of good things about that position group too. Luke Lindenmeyer and Heinrich Harburg. So like even though they lost Fedoni to the NFL draft, I still feel pretty good about that tight end room right now.
Yeah, the praise for Luke Lindenmeyer, Holgerson really singled him out in a positive way. During his press conference on Thursday, he heavily praised him, and you saw Lindenmeyer really sort of elevate himself in Holgerson's offense last season when Coach came to town. So I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do, what both parties will be able to do with the full season with each other.
Yeah, and Harburg, I think he could be kind of like a secret weapon for this offense a little bit. Just, if he can, unleash that athletic potential, I think he does have a real chance to, have production that's not like that far off from what Fedoni had last year, 300 yards like receiving. I definitely could see Harburg doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like he's a little bit of a better mover than Fedoni was, so I feel like it could be even more than that.
I think I guess when I'm looking at offense, probably the one position group where there are still guys that need to or battles, I guess, position battles that need to be sorted out. Probably the offensive line. I think we got Justin Evans at center. Pritchett, I think, is going to be left tackle. I think Spindler's going to be Rocco Spindler's going to be the
Hmm.
right guard. And then there's a little bit of competition at left tackle or left guard, excuse me, and right tackle. Now, last year, obviously you had Gatula. Gunnar Gatula was the left tackle. There's been kind of a projection that he'll bump over to the right side and start there. And
Yeah, that's what
Latowski was a starting guard last season, and it would make sense to have him at left guard. But there's also been chatter of him playing right tackle. He's also been limited this spring. So how do you think that those last two spots are going to shake out? Do you think it'll be Leftoski and Gatula, or will somebody else emerge and win a starting job?
I think it's going to be those two because they already have experience from last year, and it's just about getting healthy at this point. That's the other thing. I think there's four guys out total on the offensive line right now. So, I mean, I mean, if anything, that seems to be a Nebraska theme over the past couple of seasons. So,
Yeah.
but I feel like Latoski and Gattulo will fill those last two spots. I was really impressed with Gattulo in the playing time he got last season, so I expect him to fill that spot on the line again.
And I think being a right tackle might be even a little bit of a better fit for him. And then, yeah, Leftoski played well last year. So if you
Yeah.
look at this offensive line, essentially, Nebraska has had three starters returning because I would say Gatula, Letoski, and Justin, they all started last year. So like those are three starting players, although they're moving a little bit. Evans moving from left guard over to center, and Letoski would move from right guard to left guard in this scenario. But you have three starting players, and then you add a guy in Pritchett who started 12 games, I think, for Alabama, 10, 12 games for Alabama, and then Spindler who started 12 games for Notre Dame. So you really have a very experienced offensive line for Nebraska. There's not going to be somebody in the starting five, most likely, that doesn't have like, double digit starts under their belt. So, I mean, you could have a Grant Bricks or a Gibson Pyle or somebody that works their way into the mix, but if they're going to get that job, they're going to have to unseat somebody pretty good to get it. So I feel really good about the offensive line. And I guess in some ways, I don't understand. It seems like a lot of fans are still like panicked about the offensive line or concerned about it. And I feel pretty good about it.
Because they've
And
been conditioned to be concerned about it, and for good reason. It's been a problem for the last,
yeah,
what,
yeah.
8 years or 5 years? Too many years. So I don't blame them. But trust me, better times are coming, people.
Yeah. And especially, if they could stay healthy because I still worry about if you have an injury to one of those tackles. I think that Grant Bricks could play okay, and you have Preston Tamua who's trying to work his way into the mix. Tyler Knack.
I would want to see Grant Bricks. Yeah, I would because at this point he's in his is it his redshirt freshman year or is his sophomore year? I think it's redshirt freshman probably.
Yeah, red. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd
Um,
have to check on that. I do think I don't think he played in 4 games. He was on the depth chart a
he
lot, but
was, but I don't think he played. So at this point, I would want to see what Bricks could do, even if it means some growing pains, just to develop him. And see what he has, see what you have as a coaching staff, and you know things like that.
and Matt Rule said he has a redshirt freshman, played in 1 game last season. Matt Rule's called him a tackle before, but they've also said like they're going to play their 5 best guys. I mean, I think that's pretty standard. And if he's the best guy at like left guard, I mean, I think it would be worth playing him. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be. I guess it's a good problem to have. Like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like I said, if he wins, it's gonna because he beat out a battle tested guy. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he'll probably start next season, like 2026. But quality, I feel like they've got quality depth on the offensive line, and I'm feeling a lot. I'm feeling a lot better about the defensive line depth than I was at the start of the spring to switch over to that side of the ball. Elijah Judy, I'm feeling good about. I mean, Keanu Davis is looking like a beast. Williams Noweri. Um, so yeah, Riley Van Poppel. I just feel like there's a lot more beef up front than I think maybe we thought there was going to be this offseason. And Corey Campbell, like, let's give this guy some credit because he's done a spectacular job beefing up this defensive front, I think.
And Terry Braden has a unique chance, the defensive line coach, to really develop these players and mold these players how he wants to, and I trust him to further their process in development. I mean, you're talking about a Super Bowl champion winning coach, a former NFL coach, and I think Nebraska has the right guy for the job here at defensive line.
Yeah, I agree. It's been fun to, watch him work, and I think,
Very
it's
energetic.
good. Yeah, and it's good to have defensive line coaches with that NFL background. I mean, we saw that with Terrence Knighton, the previous 2 years, and I just feel like that um, when you have an NFL guy there with that experience, he just knows what it takes to kind of get to the league, and you want defensive linemen who are pro caliber. I mean, we saw that last year. Nebraska had 2 that are getting drafted, and looking at this line, I think there's potential for a lot of these guys to be playing professionally, but they do need to take that next step. Cameron Leonard, Williams Noweri, some of those guys that got the talent, they're blue chip recruits. Time to see it come to fruition on the field. But I definitely feel good about the depth that they have, and with Dason McCullough as a pass rusher too, and also Willis McGahee, some of those jack players. I think the pass rush is going to be even better than it was
Flavors,
last
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm really excited to see, or I'm really interested rather to see if they can get Williams Noweri to his full potential, because he didn't play a ton last year, and like you said, former 5-star recruit. Now, can they get him to that 5-star level, and how are they going to get him there? That's going to be one of my things that I'm watching for.
Yeah, and he's actually a redshirt freshman too, so that's kind of an interesting note on him. So he has 4 years to play if he wants it. But yeah, that's going to be a big. I think he had 1 sack last year, so just didn't play a ton. So I mean, I wouldn't. It wouldn't even shock me if he like wasn't a starter. I want to say at the start of the season. I think there's a good chance he will be, but it might take him a minute to get like where he's making an impact on a weekly basis. But we'll see how it shakes out. I definitely could see a line of, Van Poppel,
Mhm.
Judy, Keanu Davis. I think Nowari will definitely be in that mix. I think he'll probably be in the mix maybe a little bit more as a pass rusher too. That's kind of what I'm hoping. But yeah, D lineman can take time sometimes, and I'm not sure what was going on with Missouri. They also had another player that just left. Was it Makai Gabor to transfer there, and then just we
Sometimes
also
the
had a
grass is not always greener.
yeah. So, and that's the thing is like, he's a good player, but we don't really need him right now. So I don't think Nebraska's getting
We
back into
should
that
have.
mix.
We should have. He should have never left.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I
you
mean,
look at,
that's a sad reality. You leave in the transfer portal, and then I'm not saying he wants to come back, but now he's looking for a home, and we already filled up the linebacker spot. So, I mean, it sucks for him, but it's a good lesson in the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's interesting to see why he would leave. I would think that he would find somewhere to play next season, but yeah, I don't see him coming to Nebraska. They've got Marcus Watson, Trent, Dawson Merritt, Christian Jones, Shavers, McGahee. I mean, they're loaded at linebacker. Javin Wright. So
Jones, yeah,
yeah, so there's just I mean, there's not. It's going to be tough to play all the guys that they got right now that deserve to play at linebacker. So yeah, I don't see him coming back. But I do feel really good about that linebacker crew. Vincent,
I
I've been
do too.
talking about it for a while, but I think Vincent Shavers is probably might be the best linebacker the Huskers have had since Levante David when it's all said and done.
Wow, that's a lot of praise. Yeah,
I think he will be though. I really think like he's going to be. I think he's going to be a second round draft pick, like second or third round draft pick. You know what I mean? And I think we saw glimpses of it last year. And like if this defense is going to take a jump, like he's one of the guys that's going to get it there. You know what I mean? Just I want to see what we saw in that Pinstripe Bowl every single week, and I think he definitely has the ability to do that. And like Javin Wright was really good last year. I think McCullough's going to be good. So like the front seven, I just don't see a lot of weakness there. I feel really good about that front seven and the back end. I think it's pretty similar to what they had last year, but I do think they supplemented their corners and they have some young guys. And I think John Butler is a guy that can develop NFL talent at those positions. So I think you should feel good as a Nebraska fan about this defense on all three levels.
I don't know if it's as similar to what we had last year because we didn't really see a ton out of the pass rush or the defensive line in the sense of making impact plays on a consistent basis, and I think you'll see more of those elements with this defense.
Yeah, they need to find more out pitches on third down, more ways to confuse the quarterback on third down. Because they struggled for whatever reason, third and long
That
and
that was one of Tony White's biggest weakness. He never made adjustments, despite what James Williams has to say. He never really made adjustments, and well, it'll be interesting to see what Butler can do in situations like that, and if he can change the game plan
and I
on the
think
fly.
yeah, and that was one of the things that John Butler when he was talking with the media, about third downs and pressuring the quarterback, but being able to confuse him too. And I feel like some of these NFL style coordinators or coordinators that have that NFL experience have just been a little more successful in those areas. I mean, that was when Michigan went to an NFL defense, that changed everything for them. I mean, when they went and got the guy from the Ravens and they were able to, do some different things instead of just like they were before they were just basically like blitzing and playing man. And so it was like, you can't really it's like the kind of thing you can do when you have superior talent and we've seen that with Nebraska with a lot of teams. Like if they're not that great, they just kind of overpower them. But you have to find a way to get outs, like in third downs against really good quarterbacks. And like the guys against from playing for Ohio State or for Indiana last year. Like and like how many times in that Indiana game? And I know that they kicked our butt up and down the field, but how many times was it because they got like third and six? I mean, how many third down conversions did they get in the first half of that game? So that's going to be a big turning point, I think, for this defense is getting better at on the money down on third down. Good defenses, great defenses. They're good in third down and they're good in the red zone, and those are two areas where Nebraska needs to be better.
Hmm. I agree, and especially red zone. Red zone, they struggled mightily at times last year, so hopefully they get that corrected.
Yeah, let's see. The only other depth chart thing, I guess, looking at like the kickers, I know they talked about Tristan Ovano's had a good spring, so I don't know if there's going to be in a battle there between John Hall and Tristan Ovano in the fall. I mean, probably, but I still think it's probably John Hall's job to
I agree.
lose.
I agree. He did
So
really well last year on a very bad special teams unit.
yeah, and I got to give him credit because he started off not great. I mean, he missed that
Yeah,
one against Illinois, which was big. Still, he missed that one against Iowa too. But that was a bad snap. So I mean, I can't really put it all on
yeah. The
him. And
snapping was horrible.
yeah,
So
and that's we did get the big addition with the long snapper.
from
So hopefully,
UNH,
yeah,
Kevin
from
Gallup.
UNH. Yep, Kevin Gallick and Mike Eckler. I mean, that's something where hopefully we just don't have to worry about special teams like we have the past few years. So I think that's going to be the case with Mike Eckler, but hopefully we see that come to fruition in the season.
Yeah, I can hope, right? Because a couple more better snaps, and we'd have 8 wins, 9 wins, even maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if there was a better snap in the Illinois game and the Iowa game, and yeah, so Nebraska's close. Just got to try to get over the hump this season, but I think they've got the roster to do it, and we'll see if they do anything in the spring. The spring transfer window is going to open up this week. Before we wrap it up, do you think Nebraska's going to do anything in the spring portal window? Do you think that they're interested in all, or is there? Or do you think this roster's set?
I think this roster's pretty much set. I mean, when you look at the positions, they're pretty loaded. They have a lot of depth, and I think maybe like they could add, one more player, but I think they're pretty much good to go.
Yeah, if they were going to add somebody, I'm still interested to see if there's a running back that they like a really good running back. If they take like a power back, if they take a flyer on him. But yeah, maybe a defensive tackle or I'm not sure. I don't. There's not a glaring need for me though. I mean, really,
Yeah,
even at offensive tackle after they got Pritchett, I just don't see that they have a massive need anywhere. But I mean, if a superstar comes available, if somebody like that or that really can impact your team, like you can always take a shot. But I think we'll see more departures than additions in the next couple of weeks.
I agree. And yeah, if a running back becomes available, I mean that would be great. But I feel like they're pretty confident in what they have at the position.
Yeah, Quentin Ives just needs an opportunity. I mean, Dylan Raiola said that, Matt Rule said that, Holgerson said that. So I'd be surprised if they added one. Although maybe somebody like a Ramir Johnson, like a pass catching type, like I don't know, maybe, but I feel like Quentin Ives is pretty talented in that area too. So at least he's on NCAA college football 25. So that's
It's
all I
going
have
to
to
be a
say
big
about
year
that.
for him either way. So it'll be interesting to see what the returns are.
And Makai Nelson too is another guy that could have a role as a running back and as a receiver. So, all right, you guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us on this Saturday morning chat. We'll be back next Saturday to do it again. We'll be back on Monday morning as well with our normal podcast. So, yeah, check that out. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get to the comments section. Anybody as well that's watching on the replay, thank you. Also hit like and subscribe, and have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.